Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi,
And
Courtney.
hi. And my sobriety date is January 1st of 2016. But I'm very new to online meetings. My first online meeting was actually 2 weeks ago when my friend Ellie from EpiPaw spoke. And I'm thrilled to be here. I was dreading speaking a little bit because I hate FaceTiming. I spend way too much time inspecting my own face. So at least right now I can see three other faces in addition to mine. And it is the face of a um, in the world. So uh, my life began in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the suburbs east of San Francisco, east of here where I'm at now in Oakland. And my mom is a sober alcoholic. So my first AA meeting, I was about 24 months old, pretty young to get started in AA. And it was a normal suburban upbringing. I remember struggling in school, though. Probably my biggest struggles were at school. In elementary school, they came and tested us in math and split us into groups based on our skill level. And I was in the lowest skill level. And in general, in my life, I've discovered that I learn differently from other people, and I carried a lot of shame at that time, and I still do really today. And my best friend in elementary school tested into the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented program. And I think they didn't know how to explain to the teachers, how to explain to us what that program was. But what I was told by my teacher was that those kids were the kids that were the most likely to be doctors or lawyers or politicians that were going to run our country someday. So our district was investing more time and money into those students, or at least that's the way I heard it at the time. And feeling like I wasn't smart, or I wasn't smart enough was a deal breaker to me. It really felt like the end of the world. And so that's was kind of my mindset when I got to high school, when all of a sudden it was important also, or it felt important to me to also be pretty and cool and funny. And I really felt like I was none of those. But luckily for me, or unluckily, I guess, however you look at it, my high school had a lot of available drugs and alcohol. And we would do things like scout the location of our school picnic and go the day ahead to, I just realized I forgot to start my timer, go the day ahead to leave a keg in the creek on ice. Or we were threatened with breathalyzers at the student dance. So we took a bunch to ecstasy, which is, not, you can't test that in a breathalyzer. Or we would, we were not supposed to leave school. It was a closed campus, but there was a hole in the fence. So we would leave school and get stoned. We smoked really good weed, and that was fun. So then at college, I went to college in San Francisco, and a couple really big shifts at that time. One of them was I turned 21 and I was legally allowed to drink in places. And I really looked at that idea as a VIP ticket into probably the most sad places in the Bay Area. And I drank at all of them. And another shift was I really internalized that norm in society where we drink when we're going through something hard. And I also was part of a family where we drank when we celebrated. And I also drank while I was bored. So it just got to the point where there was no time to be sober between those things. I wasn't sober. And the consequences started to happen. I got a insane DUI where I sideswiped, I think it was 7 parked cars that were parked along Golden Gate Park, and there was cops and, plainclothes cops in an unmarked cop car right behind me when that happened. I would go to jail, what would have been just a normal conversation with the cops would land me in jail every time. If I didn't go to jail, I would end up at the hospital. That happened a lot. Around that time I got that DUI, I started going to AA. And from then on, there would be a lot of AA. There would be a lot of conversations with sober people. There would be a lot of revelations about what my life could be like sober, but there was not a lot of continuous sobriety. And so during that time, things just went from sad to heartbreaking. I became just heavily addicted to drugs at this point too. During one point in my sobriety, I was prescribed Ritalin to help me get my life back together. And then when I relapsed, I was mixing Ritalin with cocaine. I'm sure I don't even need to explain to you guys how bananas that time was. And with, with uppers, you can just drink to excess and keep the lights on, in your head. And I just, I got to the point where it was so hard to look at myself in the mirror because I had changed so much. I was just a shadow of the person that I used to be. My bank account was zero, less than zero. And I used to be this person that was so motivated by working and earning my own money. I was pretty much unemployable. I was always getting kicked out of places of business. My personal relationships were in shambles. I was estranged from almost everybody I loved. And I would have these little light bulb moments about my addiction. And one of the like aha moments that I had is I realized that the only moment that I felt any kind of happiness was that moment when the glass or the bottle touched my lips. The minute I dropped my hand down, I was miserable again. And with drugs, I just, coming down or running out of drugs just began to feel like absolutely the end of the world. It was so excruciating that I started to feel like I would be happier. I would be better off if I was sober. So in the end of 2015, I was living in San Francisco. I moved back to Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill area where I had been sober before. And I started going to this meeting on Mayhew Way that's just known as Mayhew by people in the area. And that meeting's on Friday nights. And I started making coffee for those guys, and they made such a fuss over the coffee that I made, as horrible as it must have tasted. And then I became the co-secretary of that group, and then I became the secretary of that group. Today, I'm the GSR. I'm in my second year of being a general service representative for that group. And all of the positions have been humbling, but really, I mean, general service. I never realized how little I knew about AA until I was in a room full of people who did general service. But since that time when I got sober, I've moved to Oakland, and so that means that I sit in rush hour traffic on Friday nights to get there. And there have been a lot of times where I didn't want to go. I even a couple times found myself composing a group text to the people that depend on me in that group, and I'm not going to go, and here's why. And just like hearing how I sounded in that text of trying to shirk my responsibilities of that group, I was like, it was just easier just to go. I didn't want to be that person. And now today I have a sponsee who goes to that group, and so there's just no excuse really to get my butt in the car and get my ass in the seat of that meeting, because flaking on that meeting means flaking on her. And a friend of mine from that meeting, Richard, suggested I go to one of these EBIPA business meetings. And wow, I was absolutely terrified of EpiPaw, but also just completely in love from the beginning. And I remember just again feeling like I wasn't cool enough for them. I mean, everybody there seemed so confident and comfortable in their own skin, and how much fun we had. I remember towards the beginning how much I would laugh when Katie, our treasurer at the time, would give her reports about bank, what was in our bank account or how much money we made on an event. It was just so much fun to me. And the biggest event that we do all year, some of you might know, is Yuba. And my first experience with Yuba was scary for me. I knew that somehow I knew that everybody would stay up all night drinking energy drinks and vaping. And I don't stay up all night, and I don't vape. I used to drink energy drinks, but I was worried that I would be either just embarrassed about my old lady sleep schedule, or that I wouldn't get enough sleep. And I remember the first night laying in my tent, just amidst all this chaos of people talking and laughing and staying up all night, and just feeling like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, like with my partner at home, far away from him, but I was exactly where I wanted to be. I mean, when I'm with those people, my EpiPaw people, I never wish I was somewhere else. And this last year with Yuba was our first voyage in a new location, and we had no showers, which was a new level of being uncomfortable for me, because part of my sober routine is like getting cleaned up every day and showing up for my day. And I was a little bit nervous about that, but also the way I had changed, over this past year is that I realized that if I wanted to be part of this EpiPaw, that I would have to be comfortable with letting them see me on every kind of day that I have, on good days, bad days, days where I don't shower, whatever it is. And this past trip was, just solidified even more my realization that service keeps us sober, because not only did all of us on the committee stay sober on those Sundays where we met and planned that trip, but all of those people, stayed sober for that weekend and had fun and connected with other sober alcoholics. We had this incredible nighttime meeting, with the view of the lake in the background and the sound of the lake lapping on the shore. I mean, it was spiritual. It was incredible. And I know that I'm going to shift now into talking about my family. It's that time of year now that's hard for people, and I know that getting your family back is not the story for everybody. But we're heading into this Thanksgiving weekend, and I have 2 Thanksgivings to go to, and one of them is with my my sister and her whole crew, who I was estranged with when I got here. And I have this niece and nephew. My nephew Henry calls me Kikon. We don't know why, but it's so cute. And when I spend time with them, I really never take it for granted, because sobriety makes me this person that shows up for my family, and is the same person every time I show up. I'm not this "what Courtney are we going to get" person. I come to every family event with a good attitude, and an attitude of of love and acceptance that I've gotten from this program. And my family is full of alcoholics. I mean, completely full of alcoholics, and showing up for those things clean and sober just means everything to me today. I get tears in my eyes when I think about the gift that it is to be a clean and sober member of my family. And my brother is one of us who has been in the East Coast for probably the last 10 years. He's been in the military. And recently he and I were talking, and he was saying that he was walking into rehab. And then a couple days later, I found out that he wasn't in rehab. So I asked him if he I took him to the vet hospital in Palo Alto, and I thought I was dropping him off for detox and rehab, but they told us that they only accept emergency cases for detox and rehab. So they actually sent us on our way with gabapentin to detox at home. And we just my parents were out of town, so we lay on the couch at my parents' house, and I took time off of work while he detoxed. And even though it was such a emotional, horrible time where he was physically sick and going through this horrible thing, it was probably the best time I've ever had with my brother. And he would say the same, even though he was going through that hell. And my instincts completely came from this program. I knew what to do when my brother was going through that. I had additional insight as his sister, but I knew exactly what to do based on, my experience in this program. And on Friday, we are going to go to my sister's house for Thanksgiving, and my brother's invited. And we still have a lot of healing to do, especially he and my sister have a lot of healing to do. But even though we don't know what's going to happen, with him, this was in the beginning of October that he came home, and he's still sober today. And I sort of mentioned that I was a person who came in and out of the program that relapsed, and I felt really uncomfortable coming back. And so now today, when someone is that person that kind of comes in and out of the program, I always, when they walk into the meeting, I'm just like, hi, of course you're here. Like I never make a big deal about them being here, because we're all alcoholics. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course we're here. And the way I feel about, I've seen a lot of they'll never get sober people get sober, do just that. And the way I feel about it is that until we get to the end, we don't know that person won't get sober in the end. So I never stop believing. I never stop praying for people. I never stop picking up the phone and trying to help in any way. We all have our struggles, and you just never know when someone's going to get it. And I love sobriety. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love EpiPaw. Thank you so much for letting me be of service. I'm Courtney. I'm an alcoholic.
Thanks, Courtney.